So good morning, everyone. My name is Alexis Gossick. I'm with the Technology Council of Central Pennsylvania. Thanks very, very much for carving time out on a Thursday morning. I know it's early, but it's good to see you. So thanks for joining us this morning for our Today's Tech with CDW. I'm joined by David and Ryan, and they're excited to share some great information with you this morning. Before I turn it over to them, just wanted to let everybody know that today's session is being recorded, and I will make the recording available as soon as I can after today's session. So you will get a follow-up email with contact information for David and Ryan, as well as the link for the recorded video. So if you missed something, need to refer back to it, anything like that, you will have all of that information as soon as it's available after this morning's session. So everyone did not log in this morning to listen to me talk. You're welcome. So I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to David and Ryan. David and Ryan, take us away whenever you're ready.
Awesome. Thanks, Alexis. So David Knisely, I'm the client executive for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. CDW supports all 50 states, federal government, state and local government, Canadian government, also commercial, all kinds of customers that we work with. You probably know us. I mean, the name CDW, Computer Discount Warehouse. I mean, that's how the company was formed back in the 80s. Speccing out PCs for customers when it was hard to do that. We've come a long way. The only kind of thing I wanted to cover today before I really turn it over to Dell to talk about their AI factory is you may know CDW in terms of buying laptops or docking stations, the hardware world, and we still do that really well. Don't get me wrong. But if you look at our portfolio of companies that we've bought at the bottom of this slide here, over the last 5, 6 years, these are services companies. So we are an elite ServiceNow partner, as an example. Most folks don't realize that. So you've got a lot of ServiceNow services companies out there. We're a very big ServiceNow services company, and that's because we bought companies that did that for a living. Same for our cybersecurity practice with Focal Point Identity is very strong as a part of that. Sirius was largely a federal and intelligence community company that had a lot of services as well as financing that we acquired. And you can go through the list. So, I mean, we do all types of services, and that's something that we want to offer and help augment. And I think that we really differentiate from a traditional integrator because we do sell product as well, and we need to make sure that when we work with our customers that we actually complete the job, right? A lot of systems integrators, there's an incentive to keep working. There's an incentive to keep billing services. And I think CDW is a little different when it comes to that. So I'll stop talking there. I'm going to pass it over to my counterpart, Ryan. Ryan, looking forward to hearing your briefing. I've heard it, but it is really, really interesting.
Good morning. Thank you. And so I'm Ryan Gunteski. I'm an AI Solutions Business Development Executive here at Dell. Some of my past history, I've also been at Microsoft as an Azure Data and AI Specialist, as well as AWS. But most of my career has been at Dell. And so we've always been a hardware-focused company. What we're doing a little bit differently, and I'm going to try and share my slides here. Appreciate your patience. Let's see here. Sorry. Where I wanted to share was about the Dell AI Factory. And so with Dell AI Factory, bring up my slides. There we go.
We can see it.
Perfect. Okay, so the Dell AI Factory is it's a construct as well as a product. I'm going to reshare this because of the way the content's rolling here. Okay, so when we talk to customers about AI factories, where we have to focus is on use cases and on the yeah, we're still all looking at David. Sorry. This is not, we just practiced this, literally just practiced this.
Good. Okay.
You should
you had
see
it
it.
a second ago. I can see that. There you go. You're good.
There we go. Okay. So we start with use cases. When we talk to our customers, we figure out, what are some of the use cases you come up with? Dell internally, we did a hackathon about 2 years ago. We came up with 800 use cases. And so when we talk to our customers about use case, the ideation behind this happens very often, very quickly. They come up with a lot of ideas. And so we have to go back to find where their data is. Data is the fuel for the construct of an AI factory. AI factory is akin to cloud, hybrid cloud, or a virtualization. It's a different method by which we do analytics, right? Machine learning. And so we have to make sure we have data that's proper to what the use cases are that we're trying to solve for. Dell internally, we did one for tech support, one for our sales organization. Those are two use cases that we determined that we were going to put together. Um, Supply chain optimization and call center next best actions for people to figure out. We had four use cases, and we looked at the data that we had, and we looked at the use cases that we had, and we determined that where we wanted to go was supported by the data that we had, so we can move forward with that use case. The bottom part of that is what Dell is famous for: server storage, networking, client desktops, anything that is optimized for AI now, right? Well, we just recently changed some of our marketing from Dell AI PCs back to just normal nomenclature because we were finding that customers didn't understand what made an AI PC different from a regular PC. It's the GPU or the NPU, right? It's the different processing units that do parallel processing versus CPUs. Um, it's included in our systems now anyway, right? We just got rid of the marketing. Again, these are some things you'll find in the news. The middle part of an AI factory is an ecosystem, right? So in that ecosystem, you have models, you have large language models, you have software that optimizes for it. Some of it is also orchestration. This is where you'll find agentic software where you can produce agents that actually are running multiple models at different times based on personas. Why we say that's an open ecosystem, we are in one of NVIDIA's largest partners. We go to market with them all the time, but we also have AMD. We also do open source systems as well, right? And so we have a partnership with a company called Hugging Face. On Hugging Face, you can pull down open source models. On that, you'll find the Dell Enterprise Hub, and at that Dell Enterprise Hub, you can figure out what system you have, what models are optimized to run on it, and so you don't have to do a lot of the guesswork and testing. We've actually done it for you through that specific part. And so when we say open ecosystem, we go to market with partners, but we're open to anything. And so that's where we try to make sure that everyone is properly covered. And then our services organization. Some of the AI services workshops that we do for use case verification, for racking and stacking, we do hands-on work, we do strategic work, we do consulting work. And so when we talk about Dell as a AI services and software and hardware portfolio company, we deliver the entire gamut, right? It covers all of the components that are needed to realize some AI solutions. At the bottom of this screen, you'll see sustainability and security. Sustainability, our first ideal about this is to provide customers with solutions that are enough to cover the use cases that have been defined, but also give a little bit of extra capacity to doing new things and testing new things. It's very open and out there. The MIT study about 90 something percent of use cases failing, AI projects failing. When I worked at those cloud service providers I mentioned, a lot of customers would come on, swipe a credit card, throw up a chat bot, do some, RAG-based testing, see if things worked, not a lot of uptake, turn the project off, call it a failure, because it wasn't clearly defined what an end use case was and how it provided business value. And so with our sustainability, we want to build a system that is manageable, that fits within the ecosystem, that connects to, if you're using hybrid cloud solutions for AI, we want to be able to fill in. And so CDW brought me on today as a partner because they do some of that work as well. And so we wanted to make sure that this is a holistic solution and that you're covered so that those failures don't occur because the time to market and the speed to market, things are changing so fast that we want to make sure our customers are satisfied with the solutions that we've provided. Now, on the security side, if you're familiar with Microsoft at all, they have a term that they coined called zero trust. We're at that same level all the way down to the hardware. So your firmware, supply chain, all of that is based on what's called zero trust security, meaning that if you upload data to your system or you're doing firmware rollouts, that software has only been touched by the people who are, interested in using it and doing well by you. Um, it prevents things like ransomware. It prevents, security breaches, hacks, things like that. And so we go to the level of, like I said, even firmware on hard drives where we're making sure that everything that the customer has is the utmost security, as well as providing services and products that are security based, like data protection services. So I'll pause here for a minute. I don't see any questions. Alexis, are we seeing anything?
Nothing.
Nothing, David.
Nope,
Thank
you're
you.
good.
Okay. And so when we talk about AI use cases, there's six basic constructs that I can bring down to any level for any customer, any enterprise, any public entity. I cover state and local government for Dell from the Northeast to the Southeast. So all of the small towns, large towns, counties, state level. So we when we talk about use cases, there's four, I'm sorry, there's six here that you see that are key to figuring out, where AI is best suited to fit in. Digital assistants, the first one here. We're working with transit authorities, we're working with cities. These digital assistants can be as simple as a LVR when you call into a call center. It does some pre-screening, make sure you're routed to the right place, and then it'll stay on with the agent who's helping you to provide a next best action. So if a customer calls in and says, I need help with this specific department, once they get to that department, the agent is also being helped by AI saying, okay, I've identified the customer's words and what they're looking for. Here's the problem. Here's how we've solved it before. Try this with the customer to help them. And again, when you're in healthcare, that can be a kiosk where you're having, check-ins for patients, or you could have, like I said, the transit authorities, there's a kiosk that has a virtual assistant that is talking to people in over 100 different languages. And so that's just a couple of examples of a digital assistant, but we can tailor that to whatever entity that we're working with. Content creation, that's the simplest one. You've gone on if you've used any AI, you've probably produced an email. Maybe, you played with it to make a limerick. Content creation, though, is also taking pre-existing documents and summarization. And so this kind of lends to productivity and productivity gains. And that's one of the things that we want to look for when we're identifying use cases. Um, Code generation, if you have coding that you're doing, you might be familiar with GitHub Copilot. Uh, Instead of putting it out on the cloud, we sell solutions that you can actually keep inside of your own four walls in your data center, repositories, and then pull in a code generation tool. And so we find this with highly regulated industries. This is very key. People who are doing very proprietary work that don't want to put things on the cloud. And so that code generation speaks to them as well. Computer vision, this one goes all across anything physical, right? Now we're getting to physical AI a little bit. Computer vision is dash cams, it's traffic cams, it's drones that are checking rail lines or they're, you know, doing surveys. Maybe it's, patient monitoring, x-rays. There's a whole host of different use cases that we dive down into, but at a high level, computer vision and tagging, video indexing, and monitoring are the key tenets of that. Design and data creation. Now, this one gets interesting because when you look at the large language models that are out there, the ChatGPTs, the Claudes, they're being trained now on synthetic data. So using artificial intelligence to produce randomized data is not new. In financial services, they call these Monte Carlo simulations, where they'll take historical financial data and then they'll produce excess amounts so that they can run larger and more tests to see different variables and variants that may not have already actually occurred historically. Um, and so we have to find a method by which we can create synthetic data to train new models in machine learning. And then digital twins, this is actually one of my favorites. Digital twin is literally taking anything physical and turning it into digital and then manipulating it to see how things go. Good example of this is in manufacturing, but you can also think of parking lots, you can think of road construction, you can think of hospital rooms where there's an open room and you have different parts that are sitting in there. And then again, manipulating it, moving it, and changing it to produce different results. An example of this, I had a manufacturer who one wall was in the sun all day during every day. One full wall of the factory was in the sun. So in the winter, it was warm. In the summer, it was hot. And so you have machines that are producing heat. Every 6 months, they would switch the factory floor so that they could lower their air conditioning costs, lowering their electricity costs. But they had to do a digital twin first to see, okay, if we move this, what sensor data would be produced, and then verify the move before moving enormous machinery around their factory. And so these are the 6 basic parts where we start and look at where use cases fit in. This is where we do the ideation for use case defining as part of your AI factory. You saw in the first slide, use cases have to be the place where you start, and then data has to be good before you can get there, right? And so when we talk about use cases, I'll stop for just a second and say the business value is the one side of that equation, and then the feasibility is the other side. So
Ryan, I'll give you a breath
feasibility,
real quick.
yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
I'll give you time to just take a breath. That was phenomenal. I'll say when it comes to the Commonwealth, and I would wonder if it's the same within the healthcare industry or other, let's call them, I mean, these are regulated industries.
Yes.
It's interesting because the Commonwealth is still developing their AI policy right now, right? So like this is a fluid thing. Everybody's very excited, and I use Copilot every day for work. I use Chat GPT, for personal stuff. But when you put content into some of those public cloud-based AI tools, do you really know where that data is going, right? And do you know that there needs to be policy around it? What I think is so interesting from this Dell AI factory standpoint, one of the things is that you can do this kind of cloud similar power, but you could do it within your walls. And I think that's a lot. We're seeing this more and more. It's why people are building data centers all around the Commonwealth right now, because some of this you can't do in the cloud. And I really think, when it comes to our Commonwealth and our counties and cities and boroughs and, energy companies, healthcare, financial services around here, I think this is something, if you want to embrace AI, and we all need to, I think trying to make it safer, trying to create the policy around it is very interesting. So I'll turn it back over to you. I think you got one more slide.
Yeah. And so on that slide, this is what we want to help customers with, right? High value use cases to meet your objectives, checking on your data, optimizing the investment. That's the part I talked about, sustainability. Flexibility we provide with a broad ecosystem of AI partners. I do have somebody in regulated industries. They were using a specific model from OpenAI. They built their entire tooling around it, and then they were given 45 days to change because that model was being deprecated. And so when we talk about AI and we talk about LLMs, Sitting on one specific solution actually introduces risk, and that's one of the things that we talk about. Um, ooh, did I just pull the slide down? Sorry.
No, no, we can see it.
Okay. And then the last one is addressing skills gaps. And so when I talked about services, one of the things I did forget is that we actually help entities with users and how they use it, and role-based access control for data, and making sure that there's utilization happening. One of the reasons I came back to Dell is I sold a lot of Copilot licenses to a very large insurance company. They took those licenses and they gave them out, 20% at a time, right? So they deployed 20% of the licenses. Dell was the service provider who was working with those users to make sure that they understood how to use it, they understood the policies of the company. And if they weren't utilizing it, we would reassign licenses to new users so that that customer didn't have 30,000 Copilot licenses they were paying for, right? They bought no hardware from us. It was just Dell as a service provider who was doing that. Um, there was the tenets I was talking about briefly, business value. You want to make sure it increases revenue, decreases cost, improves productivity, or creates something new. One of those four has to be part of your use case, right? So when we talk about business value, we focus on, which of those four is it hitting, and is it enough to sustain an investment in purchasing hardware and infrastructure to make that determination. On the other side, the feasibility parts, we're talking about user education, making sure that they understand it, that there's a top-down strategy on how customers going to use AI, making sure that the models match. Some of them are better for different things. Like I said, computer vision versus code generation, you're not going to want to use the same large language model. Oh, and when we talk about NVIDIA, some of the software they provide, they actually package some of these things together. If you've seen GTC, they talked about all these different solutions, kind of the same as the 6 use cases I provided. They pull down packages when you're using NVIDIA and enterprise software. Um, and so there's a matrix that I can provide. I'll add it as an additional screen to this and I'll share it out. There's When you hit that upper right quadrant of where business value and feasibility is matched, those are the use cases you go after. And that's part of the strategy conversations that we can have between CDW and our services team and your entity. So we want to focus on those that are high value and easy to, implement. And that's the end of my presentation. I appreciate you guys and gals stopping by today. I'm going to stop sharing. Do we have any questions? Anything going on? David, anybody? Okay.
No questions in the chat, but let me take a pointed pause to ask if there are any questions before we wrap it up. Just as a reminder, we will get the video posted immediately following today's session, and then I will get a follow-up email out with contact information for David and Ryan. So if you have any questions or want to have any of those offline conversations, we'll make sure to make it quick and easy for you to be able to connect to do that.
Awesome. No,
All
I really
right,
appreciate
David.
you helping us facilitate this, Alexis. Really, it's the more we can get our partners like Dell out in front of the customers to help them make these decisions, I think the better.
I agree. David, Ryan, thank you so much for your time this morning. Appreciate it. To our attendees that joined in today, thank you for your time. I hope that everyone has a wonderful rest of the day today, and keep your eyes open for an email coming from me shortly. Have a great day today, folks.
All right.
Thanks so much.